Python Unittest, opposite of assertRaises. I want to write a test to establish that an exception is not raised in a given circumstance. It's straightforward to test if an exception is raised. But how can you do the opposite? Something like this is what I'm after.
Hi, I want to write a test to establish that an exception is not raised in a given circumstance. That's the default assumption. Exceptions are not raised. If you say nothing else, that's assumed in every single test. You don't have to actually write in any assertion for that.
Just call the function. If it raises an exception, the unit test framework will flag this as an error. You might like to add a comment, e.g. edited to add clarifications from the comments. Unit tests can have 3 results: pass, fail, error. Actually more if you count pass/fail/skip. If you're testing a particular exception is not thrown, and it is thrown, then in theory that should be a fail. But the code above makes it an error, which is theoretically wrong. As a practical matter, with an error your test runner will probably print the stack trace, which may be useful debugging the failure. With a fail you probably won't see the stack trace. As a practical matter, with a fail you can mark the test as expected to fail. With an error you probably can't do that, although you can mark the test as skip. As a practical matter, making the test case report an error requires additional code. Whether the difference between error and failure matters depends on your processes. The way my team uses unit tests, they have to all pass. Agile programming, with a continuous integration machine that runs all the unit tests. What actually matters to my team is, do all the unit tests pass? i.e., is Jenkins green? So for my team, there's no practical difference between fail and error. Due to the advantages mentioned above, less code, seeing the stack trace, and the fact that fail/error are treated the same by my team, I use this approach. You may have different requirements if you use your unit tests in a different way, especially if your processes treat fail and error differently, or if you want to be able to mark tests as expected failure. If you would rather have this test report an error, use DGH's answer.
You can define assertRaises by reusing about 90% of the original implementation of assertRaises in the Unittest module. With this approach, you end up with an assertRaises method that, aside from its reversed failure condition, behaves identically to assertRaises. TLDR and live demo. It turns out to be surprisingly easy to add an assertRaises method to Unittest.test case. It took me about 4 times as long to write this answer as it did the code. Here's a live demo of the assertRaises method in action. Just like assertRaises, you can either pass a callable and args to assertRaises, or you can use it in a with statement. The live demo includes a test cases that demonstrates that assertRaises works as intended. Details. The implementation of assertRaises in Unittest is fairly complicated, but with a little bit of clever subclassing you can override and reverse its failure condition. AssertRaises is a short method that basically just creates an instance of the Unittest.case.assertRaises class and returns it. See its definition in the Unittest.case module. You can define your own _assertRaises class by subclassing _assertRaises and overriding its _exit__ method. Normally you define test case classes by having them inherit from test case. If you instead inherit from a subclass myTestCase, all of your test cases will now have the assertRaises method available to them.
I am the original poster, and I accepted the above answer by DGH without having first used it in the code. Once I did use, I realized that it needed a little tweaking to actually do what I needed it to do. To be fair to DGH, he or she did say, or something similar. I thought it was worth posting the tweak here for the benefit of others. What I was attempting to do here was to ensure that if an attempt was made to instantiate an application object with a second argument of spaces, the PySociate exceptions .pathosNotaValidone would be raised. I believe that using the above code, based heavily on DGH's answer, will do that.